The parents who can't be here.
Exactly. Saves any of us from dialing in and broadcasting.
And I was like, I only have so many seats. I have more than this here, so I only have so many. All right, it's fine. I'm gonna start. So you're here because you want to know about your daughter's being accelerated 7th grade math. I have plenty of information. Hopefully it'll answer most of your questions if you're particularly undecided. I know that Ms. Evans said that she's been doing the one-on-ones and giving them feedback throughout the week. She still hasn't gotten to a few, so if you haven't gotten something yet, it's gonna happen in the next couple of days. Okay, so you can take that and pair it with what I tell you, and then use that to use your judgment. All right, cool. So we'll talk about why accelerated, our Gala Math pathways, the structure of the accelerated course, and the master learning and grading. Some of this won't be unfamiliar, as there's a lot of stuff that also goes on this NEOS class, as well as all the other math classes are on campus, and some of the science and some of the English. Okay, so it's pretty mainstream. The district has something like this, but we think about just our norms for collaboration and how we come into these spaces. Is typically when I have more of a hostile group of people, where we think about just choosing one of these to be our frame of reference while we participate and collaborate within the meeting. So choosing one that you want to put in the back of your mind. I typically always choose pausing because I know that I speak too soon sometimes. It's a bad habit, and I'm working on it. So just choosing one, filing it away, and saying that's the one I'll make sure I utilize during the meeting. So me, this is my 6th year teaching. It's my 1st year at Gala though. It's my 5th year with the CPM curriculum. I am the regional coordinator of the district for the curriculum, so the math curriculum that we use. I'm the coordinator for all the schools in the district, all 1,200. So it's a lot. So I technically have multiple jobs. I'm a year 2 Math for America master teacher, just like Miss Nieves and Miss Fernandez. And I'm also part of NCTM, which is the National Conference Teaching for Mathematics. It's a big conference that we all can go to every year to do some more professional development, which I'm also running to be on the board of directors. It's one of the things. And then I'm also a Desmos Fellow, so that's a new thing this year. So it's one of the technology platforms that we use online that a lot of our students end up using in all their math classes. So I just became a Desmos Fellow, so we're doing some more work with that this summer in terms of creating new projects. A lot of the kids really like the projects that I end up making, but because it's just me making them, they're like a 7 out of 10, 7.5 out of 10. I want them to be a 10 out of 10. And so going to this over the summer is going to give me the opportunity to make them a lot better and come up with some cohesive projects for the end of the semester instead of our traditional tests, because the kids end up liking them and they end up showing us a lot about what they do know at the end of the year or the end of the semester. Any questions about any of that? I just kind of flew by. I'm a fast talker. No? All right, cool. And so that's supposed to be another image over there. Just to give you an idea, I know this is something that maybe Ms. Neon says, I'm not really sure, but I try to incorporate the things that we do in math as well as some other things that include reasoning and just that are really logic-based to get our girls thinking, because understanding that after accelerated math, they will be going to Algebra 1. Okay, that's gonna be their first high school course. It's gonna actually go on their transcript. So getting them into the process with the habits of really thinking outside the box is a way to be able to grapple the math in a way that sometimes they don't know they're grappling with the math, but they actually are. So I'm gonna let you all do this really quickly. Find a reason why each one of these doesn't belong, okay? And then finish the statement. Image number blank doesn't belong because it's blank and the other image is something else. Okay, you can collaborate or think to yourself, you get like 4 minutes. 4 minutes. Why does each one not belong? share with each other. Whatever you come up with, you're just like the kids, you know, you can talk to
So you're saying there's a reason why none of
Each
them
one.
should belong?
There's a reason why each one doesn't belong with the group of the other three. Can you find a reason for each? So maybe just start with the ones that you do feel like, I know that one. One of the beginnings not like the other. That little song they used to sing was the Sesame Street. Look at you on
We also are on assessment.
Oh. So that's what it is, it's just, we zoom in. All right, who's got a reason for the first one? Why is this one different than the others? Oh, so there's nothing on the actual bottom of it? Okay, I haven't heard that one before. Whoa, I get you. Any other reasons for this one? No? What about this one?
Diagonals.
And diagonals?
Are vertical and
As
horizontal.
Okay, so as opposed to them actually being set along their sides instead of their vertices. What about this one? This one right here?
That shape actually increased by an increment of 2 versus the other ones are always 1.
Okay, so we're looking at how much is actually increasing around the sides there, and then what about this one?
It's
Decreasing. Okay, so we ended up, so maybe you didn't get all of those, maybe you were able to think about, but hopefully you were able to hear some of the responses from other people. So this is actually from our linear unit. It's probably the beginning of the year. The girls will end up doing this, and while they may not use some of the language or pull out all of the things that I want them to get, it's really low floor, high ceiling, meaning that everybody has access to it, because you can just tell me something like, there's nothing else on the bottom, right? Everybody can kind of see that, as opposed to, you can also tell me, well, it's increasing by a multiple of 3, as opposed to the other ones are increasing by a multiple of 2 or something of the sort, right? So it really varies in terms of what you're able to see. But it gives everybody access, and we're still talking about math, it's just in a different way. So the CPM guiding principles, there's 6 of them. The 3 that I just want to point out in terms of really thinking about mastery, learning, and grading are that the students learn ideas more deeply when they're supported by established, effective study teams. And I don't just mean that in the classroom, I mean that outside the classroom too. My girls that have had the best success in the class are those who form study groups, right? And it's something that I've encouraged them to do. But whether it be you're just talking on the phone about math, homework, or you actually come in, I have a couple of study teams that just come into office hours just to do the homework, just to practice. They're not talking to me. They don't have any questions for me. They might, but they're really just here to have a space to work with other people and like carve out that time intentionally. And then when they embrace the growth mindset and understand that mastery takes time, effort, and support, right? So it doesn't always happen on the first try, but you have those multiple opportunities, which hopefully they experience with this year. And then assessing what they understand, assessing what students understand requires more than one method, more than one opportunity. So giving them those opportunities to retake over and over and over again, right? Until they get it, which I've had, right? I've had students retake things 4, 5, 6 times and they get on the 7th try. That's perfectly fine. I have no problem with that, right? I'll give you as many copies as you need. Any questions on you have to do now or the guiding principles? Okay. So why accelerate? Why do we want our students to be in an accelerated course? Because ultimately we want them to make an AP calculus by 12th grade. Okay, and on the traditional track of doing algebra 1, geometry, algebra 2, and then pre-calculus in terms of their 9th to 12th, they won't get there. Right? So oftentimes they have students accelerate at some point in time to get there by 12th grade year. Develop organizational and intrinsic motivational skills, especially the things that they need to get ready for algebra 1. Taking the initiative and responsibility for learning. So up until this point, it's kind of different between from parent to parent in terms of whether they felt like they've had to like really be beside them or if they've been really independent. But this, I feel like this course I had a lot of parents and students realize like I really do need to take responsibility. I really need to get on top of everything that I'm doing. I don't really have time to slack. But again, it's really be trying to prepare them for high school, which they're technically going to enter next year as 8th graders. Yeah. Even the faculty with the high school grading and then understand the rigor and fast pace of college courses. And so it's accelerated. We're basically taking 2 courses and combining it into one. And they're doing 7th and 8th grade math in the same year. Okay, we'll go back and forth between the books, where they're basically doing 2 courses at the same time. Any questions?
So if they don't do this, then they are going to take geometry their freshman year?
If they don't do accelerated,
Yeah,
then they would be taking algebra 1 their freshman year.
and then geometry their sophomore year.
But I'm going to show you some alternative pathways that we have that if they aren't ready to accelerate right now, there are options. This is a lot. I don't know why I put this in here. Ultimately, all of this was to say that the decision is ultimately up to you, regardless of what myself or Ms. Nieves says. It's up to you to make the decision about when you have that conversation with your daughter about where she is and what you feel like her strengths are and what her needs are. There are, and I guess I put this in here mostly because I wanted to just highlight this. I've had some parents who really wanted to force their kids into an accelerated pathway without considering their feelings and where they were at the time in terms of their math skills. And it really hurt them ultimately down the road because they're leaving my class, in the middle of the semester. Everybody goes, where did so-and-so go? And then they're, put into a different course which they feel like is lower or whatever the case may be, but it's just technically the course they should be in for 7th grade. It's not that it's lower than this one. This one is just moving way faster, right? So just considering that it's been proven the negative consequences of, like forcing kids along into these accelerated pathways before they're really ready, especially before algebra. So here's our other math pathway options. So there's tons of them, and technically you could have even more of a varying pathways than this or more varying pathways than this. Most of the girls are in accelerated math, they're ready to move on after this year, are going to be on this pathway. So they'll take algebra 1 and they'll get to AP Calc by 12th grade year. However, for those that say, I'm not ready this year, maybe I want to move a little bit slower and really get my foundation together. You'll take 7th and 8th, and then maybe you can double up on algebra 1 in geometry your freshman year and still get to AP calculus, right? And then again, likewise, maybe I still need to take it a little bit slow with algebra 1, considering how I did in 8th grade, and then I can double up on geometry and algebra 2. We had a couple girls, and that's in 10th grade. We had a couple girls double up on algebra 2 and pre-cal for their 11th grade year. That's not really a preferred combination because they really need that algebra 2 to get ready for pre-cal. So geometry ends up being a space where we can kind of pair that up with another course, even though it's pretty different. It does combine algebra skills, but at the same time, it allows them to kind of work separately a little bit. And then again here, this is like for the super accelerator, where they're doing accelerate algebra 1, and then if they just really feel like they're just ridiculously ready and just crazy enough to do this, and they'll do geometry and algebra 2 freshman year, pre-calculus, AP Calc, and then maybe, I don't know if it'll be stats or if it'll be something else, but we're definitely looking into some other courses that might be in here. I know there's Calc AB and BC, so maybe they'll do both of those. We haven't had anybody get to this yet, so it's kind of like, once we get there, we'll figure it out at this point. Yeah. Any questions about any of that?
So when you say double up, it's not a separate course, it means you're literally taking 2 different math classes during the day.
Yeah,
Right.
2 separate math classes. So you'll be in geometry 2nd period, maybe algebra 2.
So you'll miss out on something else.
It might be, I think it depends on their schedule. I don't think they're gonna miss out on anything because a lot of them have opportunities for electives. I think that's the only, so I don't think they would technically miss out. They would only do it if it fits their schedule without missing something. So multiple pathways, again, it's about just honoring where they're at, like really and truly honoring where they're at, and saying, yes, I can do accelerator right now. Or, you know what, I met with Ms. Youngest, and I talked to you, and really reflected on like my type of skills, my habits and things, and this is what I feel like I can do. I feel like there was something else right here, but okay. So the class structure is, I think, more or less kind of the same across a lot of the courses when it comes to CPM. There's a collaborative and cooperative group work, so it's mostly group work. There's direct instruction reviews, scaffolding notes when necessary. So not every single day is going to have direct instruction. Not every day is going to be review, but it's just going to happen when it's necessary based on kind of the ongoing assessment, listening to students and seeing how they're doing on certain things. 2 lessons, 2 homework assignments per class. So if they're not in the habit of doing homework, they need to get in the habit of doing homework or consider over the summer if you know they're gonna start working on changing those habits. Independent learning to fill gaps. So I'll give you an example. I think in one of the courses or at some point during the year, it introduced or started asking the girls about circles. And then we hadn't covered circles. Circles were coming up, but because of the way the books were ordered, they had already assumed that they had covered circles, even though they hadn't. A lot of them were like, oh, just look it up in the book. And here's the formula for area, here's the formula to do circumference, this is what it is. And that was them doing that themselves because it was really straightforward. It wasn't something that I had to give an entire lesson on because we were just talking about area and perimeter shapes, right? Which they already have a background knowledge in. It was just them filling in that small gap of doing it for circles. You know? And then mastery-based grading, no percentages. They've already experienced this at this point, so that's nothing new. But that's the general gist. I've incorporated homework quizzes or more like formative assessments to go towards their college and career readiness. So they kind of know with their level 2 when they get ready to take that actual unit assessment, the homework quizzes are pulling out questions from the homework, directly from homework that they should supposedly have done. And they're reflecting what level 2 looks like on an assessment, right? And level 2 is what we're aiming for because that's passing. Level 3 and level 4 are above and beyond. So them getting those homework quizzes they're reflecting on where they're at right now in terms of am I ready to even do a level 2 question on the unit assessment in the future, right? So giving them the opportunity to kind of do some of that reflection ongoing and throughout the course. Yeah. Any questions about this? Nice, yeah.
So the 2 lessons and homework assignments, so you're in the class, it's how, and you said they're cramming 2 courses into one. So was it 1 lesson from one and 1 from another, or like sequential in one area?
It's sequential in one area, so we're not just going like 7th grade, 8th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade every day. We might do an entire chapter from the 7th grade book, and then the next thing to be an entire chapter from 8th grade, where it might be half and half, but they will be in order. So it's not just gonna stagger like that. You like what I said.
Yeah, what percent of 7th graders now are in 7th grade?
I believe I have 2/3 of them,
2/3 of them get 7th.
and the other third is passion. So the classes are pretty much packed out. That's another thing to consider. I started off actually over. I had more students than I had seats, so it was more than 40. This class seats 40. There were more than 40. We're down to about 38 per class, so they're completely full. And they've experienced this year like between 20 and 25, kind of nice and breezy and roomy in the class. And that's not what it's like in here. It actually is a little more spacious because I put all the desks together in 8s. When I separated them in 4s, it was like no space in here. So I made them into 8s and they climb in as best they can with these desks that they gave me. But it's definitely a packed out situation here. I just give a difference in terms of context about how it's going to feel different than this next class as well. Yeah. Which we wanted them to experience, but it was kind of hard to get them to experience trying to switch the classes.
I can't offer 2 accelerated.
Oh, we do have 2.
Yeah.
That's
40.
40 each.
3.
So that's the problem because there's only 4 of us and trying to like accommodate all the different courses that we have, all the students that need to take all the courses. It just ends up not working out. Even though I feel like it should, just because I know for instance like my algebra 2 class, I had smaller classes. potentially may combine, but when you get to the high school, their schedules don't have a lot of leeway. So their schedules are more locked in than the 7th graders are. So it just ends up being how many teachers we have teaching this course at this particular time that we can do this kind of swap around. And that's just how it ended up. We got 40 and 40. That was it.
Is 40 the maximum
For the
middle
district.
school?
That's a whole nother thing about what the actual maximum is and what should be, like, what should. I believe in terms of our contract, the max at the, this is where the language gets kind of funky, is that the max is 36 average. So that means they're gonna take all my classes and average them, and if it comes out to 36. So I had a class of 10, and I had a class of 16. And I have an advisor of 15, and they're gonna take all those and they're
So-
gonna average.
So it's your average and you teach multiple grades. Got it.
Yeah, so they end up kind of playing that word. As far as I know, now, how they're gonna potentially emphasize that, I do know that granted this is a public school, we're kind of non-traditional, so some of that also is, yeah, it's kind of hard to finagle when it comes to saying that we're gonna create more classes or, you know, abide by this minimum or maximum, if you will.
What about any teacher assistant or teacher paid help?
That would
What?
be wonderful. I don't have
So
one of
that's
those.
only one teacher versus 38 to 40 students.
Which is kind of common across the district, where it's like 40 and sometimes 50. In some classes, yeah, I've heard about people teaching like a core class of 50 in math class. So it's really not too bad because most of the girls that come into Accelerate are really self-sustaining. So it's really manageable. So it's not like I'm like in a class of 40 kids who are like, you know, aren't ready, you know, for the, I mean, they pretty much understand the expectations of school at this point and what they're supposed to do. And so it's not a management thing. It's just about, I only have so much time. So you really have to know how to focus yourselves and use all your resources. There's 37 other girls in this classroom that are also resources. Like I'm not always the first resource. So making sure that that's something that they already know how to do.
So these are the numbers for this year. What if next year you have more than expected students signed up for this accelerator?
Well,
What is the
we're trying to combat that now because what ended up happening is that it started off more than 40 and then it dropped because after so many progress reports and so many conferences, just realizing that some of the girls weren't ready for the accelerator at this point, and so they switched out to the regular Max 7. So we're trying to kind of combat that a little bit now by saying, here are the expectations, like you really need to stop and think about what type of habits and skills you already have right now, and if that's gonna allow you to really be successful in this type of environment. Because I mean, some parents were like, well, you know, back when she was in 4th grade, you know, she did really well when the teacher would sit next to her after class and like work with her one-on-one. I'm like, I'm not doing that. Like, there's no way I can sit with just your daughter at a class of 40, you know, and help her. Like, A, she needs to work with the other 39 girls in here, and B, that's just not going to be conducive at all. So that sounds like she needs a lot more support and help than we have to offer in this space. Yeah, so just consider it, guys. Yeah, anything else? Some more?
So it's a chance that the student can drop out by the teacher recommendation once you're in the class.
So this was a struggle this year too, because while it was in the contract, the students and parents signed, there was still some pushback. So it was supposed to be at the 5-week that we would tell them, hey, you need to like consider like what's happening or like your habits at this point. And we ended up waiting until the 10-week because at the 5-week I just didn't have enough data to really look at and say like this is how you're performing. And so by the 10-week we sent home you know, just consider where you're at, you know, the progress reports, and if you know you're going to consider dropping the class, then you would, you know, fill this out. But if not, you're good. And so a lot of parents were like, them thinking that I was telling their children to drop out of my class, and that wasn't the case. I was just telling them to think about where we were at right now. And it's, yes, they can drop out, like they can change at any time. I've had students change semester 2 or semester 1 in the first 10 weeks, or the end of semester 1, whatever the case may be. It can happen at any time. And actually, I want to change that language. I won't say drop out. I want to say just switch to the other class. At any point in time, they can do that. It would be better if it happened sooner rather than later. Okay, so this was on the contract if you've already gotten it. So this was a part of what they asked the girls to say yes, no, maybe. These are the type of skills that I already have right now. And Ms. Nieves already had a conference, or we'll have a conference with them about some of these things that they're really important. And I'm gonna say that out of all of these, I'm gonna say my top 2 is this one here, this one, or say top 3, or the bottom 3. The bottom 3 are what's gonna really determine their ability to survive and thrive in the class, and really and truly is asking for questions. I have girls that literally never ask me a question. I don't even think have ever spoken to me. You know, and that really impedes their ability to do well, because again, it's not even just asking me questions, it's asking anybody. So if you're just really passive in the conversations that are happening, and you're not really engaged or involved, or doing some of the thinking or the discussing, it's really gonna impede your ability to progress and really think through some of the things that they're doing, which are gonna take them out of their comfort zone, right? Because it's gonna be challenging, which some of them experience when I went over to the class. And it's like, accelerate, it's hard. And I was like, yeah, it is. So just them being able to stay on task even when I'm not looking, because no, I cannot see all 40 at the same time, right? So, and I expect them to be talking in this class. So while I expect them to be talking, I'm not always, I just know there's a decent amount of noise, okay? And I don't always know what all the conversations are about. I can usually pinpoint sometimes, but it's not gonna always happen. So they're gonna be able to have to stay on task, even without me, always being near them, or, saying, hey, let's get back on track. And they come into office hours, right, to get ready for assessment. So learning some really good study habits, which some of them realize after like the first 2 or 3 assessments, they're like, oh, I gotta study. It was a new concept for them. It was like, yes, you do, you need to study. I provide study materials, you should use them. So they should have already seen this, or they will see this pretty soon, okay? Mastery-based learning, you already know about this. You should. If I won't really go through this because they're already doing it with these kids at this point, but they're achieving a certain level of mastery before I say I'm comfortable with sending you to Algebra 1 next year. And they're giving these additional opportunities to try again, additional support, more practice, etc. We'll review in class, all these other types of opportunities, office hours, etc. Okay. Yes, some stuff is just not coming up. All right, that's cool. The grade book is the same as the one I just uses right now. So I don't know why it's not there, but yeah. So I just wanted to give maybe some sample grades. Just even though again it's the same as now, I had to do this because this is basically what I used for the 7th grade parents for this year, to get them, because they were experiencing a lot of discomfort what was going on in the Exploratory course. But just understanding that our expectation is that they achieve that too in every learning target, right, before we can say we're comfortable. And a lot of the kids are like, man, like it's messed up that, just one of those learning targets brings me down to a D. Well, here's my thinking. That if learning target 7 is solving equations, which is a big part of Algebra 1, I don't feel comfortable sending you to Algebra 1 if we can't solve equations. That's just my thinking. Even though it's amazing, you know how to graph lines and you can do all these other things, I'm so happy about that. However, I need you to be proficient in all of these to say that you're gonna go to a high school course next year, period. Right, that's just the understanding, especially considering the fact that you can retake learning targets at any point in time. Okay. So it was just a bunch of samples, even though you all have already experienced this, so understanding that, An A means that we have at least half of them at 3.5 and above. And then second semester gets a little more difficult with 75% are at 3.5 or above, or 75% are at 3 and above. For the B, et cetera, the D stays pretty much the same. If it's 3 learning targets, below a 2, that's a D. But with that being said, redefining the D. A lot of parents are seeing the D's and they go, oh my gosh, my child's never got a D, so they're failing. Well, no, well, it's me. That means they have like a 50% in your class. I'm like, first of all, we don't have percents. And then secondly, if he's not failing, it just means not yet. They need more time. That's it. It just means not yet. Right? And it needs a few learning targets. So it should really and truly resolve, and this is just my thinking, in a conversation, not a panic, because when you panic, they panic. And some of them, as you, I don't know all of your daughters, but some of them are like pretty wound up sometimes, and they're really like always just like, yeah, I gotta like do this, I gotta do that. And so when you panic, they kind of like go into this panic mode too, even though some of you are really relaxed and they panic no matter what. But hopefully it'll spark more conversations like, which learning targets are you struggling with, instead of, oh my goodness, you're failing. What have you done to improve so far? What type of support do you need? So it can help push them along, more than just dwelling on the fact that they have this letter on their report card. Yeah.
Can I ask a sort of unrelated question that someone texted me?
Oh wow.
To ask you.
Oh, okay.
So if somebody decides not to do accelerated and they start in regular 7th grade math, and the teacher realizes at some point early on, like, you really should be in accelerated math, can they upgrade?
Yeah, I had 3 girls move into the class. I think towards the end of first semester or something. Yeah, towards the end of the first semester. What my warning with that, and it's totally possible, like anybody can join. My warning with that is understand that what they're doing in the Math 7 class is not as rigorous as what we're doing here. So while they're like really excelling and they're doing great in that context, understand that coming over to this course is going to be what they're doing there plus some. So it would just be a matter of them considering that. Anything else? So just ways that parents can support. I don't know if you know about all of these things, but there's a parent guide at cpm.org. I have resources on the website that I haven't updated, but the resources are still there, available and great. The importance of making mistakes. A lot of them just really freak out about the concept of making mistakes, and it's a normal thing in life. I make mistakes all the time. Instilling that they can still learn through perseverance. So again, those opportunities to retake and try again and again, if need be, as long as they're doing things in between to actually support them coming in to try again, right? So if they just say, oh, I know I didn't get it the first time, let's go try again. But what did you do to prepare yourself for the second opportunity, right? So making sure that they're doing some of those things. Encouraging them to attend office hours, study, practice, take notes, and ask questions, like real questions, real thoughtful questions. And then to stay positive and patient, because when you panic, they panic. So that is the gist of my presentation. Change takes time, effort and support from everyone, right? So it's taking time for me to adjust to Gala, taking time for them to adjust to a different course, takes time for you to adjust to maybe a different grading system. The 6th grade year, when you first look at it, like, what is she doing? So it just takes time for everyone to get into the group of everything that we're doing, and just considering that and honoring that. Everybody's on a different timeline. And then that's it. So, yeah. Any questions?
Is there any difference in how Schoology is used for the parents between grade level, 7th grade, and accelerated 7th grade?
In terms of how the teachers are,
Yeah, what they're
Yes.
posting and what we could expect to see there.
I would say yes, because I do a newsletter. I don't know if the regular 7th grade class gets a newsletter. I know that I'm pretty well versed in master learning and grading. I don't know if the other course is thoroughly using master learning and grading. So it would be kind of them going back to the traditional. So it would be kind of some of those differences in terms of what it would look Any more questions, Vita?
Thank
There's one. Okay. So hopefully you'll get some papers from Ms. Yanis if you haven't already, and, yeah, I think that they're hoping to start programming the girls pretty soon, so, you know, just have enough conversations to make a decision pretty soon. Yeah.
Is this the only class that, other than electives, that they choose for seventh grade? Like, is there just one English, one history, and all that
I think so. By ninth grade year, they do get to choose AP Bio or non-AP Bio. I think everybody takes AP, no, I think it's computer science. And some other courses that they kind of push the girls into. But I think at this point, yes, this would be the only class.
That's great, this is the only one I've heard about.
Yeah.
If there's something else I don't know about.
Which again, if they're, you know, they're really like out the accelerated type that, again, the girls that came in that grade year who aren't from, that weren't here with the school beforehand and taking AP Bio, like, I see and I hear them, I have a lot of them in my advisory and they're realizing like a lot of skills I'm trying to teach seventh grade girls, like, they're learning the hard way. A little bit like this, like study groups, all those types of things, asking questions, taking notes, doing things ahead of time, procrastinating. So all those kind of like little habits that we're trying to help them form before they get to like real tough courses, right? So, and it's the only one they can choose. All right. Freedom of it might be almost the same amount, just because they're gonna stay mostly together. So when they go do Algebra 1 next year or 8th grade year, it's gonna be an 8th grade Algebra 1 class. So it won't be 8th graders and 9th graders in that class. So it's gonna be pretty much them together, unless there are some girls who say, I don't want to do Algebra 1. Just want 8th grade.
So, parents should expect around 40,
Ish.
7,
Yeah, but it only is, if you can only avoid so much.
Yeah, question, my daughter was introduced to statistics, just like so excited. Is that in a math progress, like you finish all the other math before you do statistics, or it's like geometry, you could probably do it?
So depending on the school, they sometimes offer statistics as an alternative to like pre-calc, because they're like, well, I don't know if the girls are really ready to go to that kind of pre-calc class after algebra 2, so they'll get some statistics, or it just kind of really depends on
Okay,
the
so we'll
school.
wait there.
Yeah,
That's
I
what I
know that a
thought.
lot of ours are trying to get them on the trajectory to get into calculus by that senior year, but yeah, it doesn't have to be because they're talking about statistics in all the courses, so
Okay,
they're experiencing.
that's the
all
answer, I'll give her.
Yep.
She was like so excited to do stats.
Good. And when I never taken a stats class.
Oh, I took it, I went to college for stats, for social science majors,
Mhm.
and it was so much fun.
Nice. I
So
know.
much fun.
I took 5 stats class.
Oh, man.
Yeah, you must do science for a living.
Stats.
Yeah.
I work for a non-public school, I get beat up for a living.
Oh.
Yeah, no, because it's a different math pathway than my son at LAUSD. They do calc, AB, and then BC.
Yeah, so I think it's just gonna depend, again, we haven't had
We'll
that situation come
we'll
up
get it
yet,
there.
so
We'll
once we
get
get
there.
there is when we will address that.
That's a good answer.
Yeah, it'll be like 3 years from now, like 3 years from now. we'll
Yeah.
have it.
There's no reason to decide now.
Kids.
Yeah.
You have that problem.
Very good, thank you.
So my daughter,
Where did
did
you
get her.
My school
I
called
guess
this.
it-
Mm.
Didn't get the full story. She told me she
And
went
then
for
And
self-assessment.
Oh.
And then they went ahead and they talked about whatever. The rest. Yeah, exactly. The great thing was, most of the things were no problems, totally recommended to take the class. The one thing was, finish homework in a reasonable time, and the reasonable time was the one that was like of issue, because I asked her, I was like, do you find it that you're not finishing your homework? And she's like, no. I just feel like maybe Is that consideration? So
Well,
she's-
I think you mean taking her while doing it at home when she's working on it? Oh, no,
I got
that's
one.
fine. No, because ultimately for each unit, I only have to turn the log, they self-correct their homework, they don't turn it into me. And that's also the difference with the course, is that I'm not collecting homework, I'm expecting for you to say that I took ownership, I'm responsible, and I did it. And at the end of the unit, they only turn in a solution paper to me that says, that just checks off, did they do it or not.
Got it.
That's it, and I mean, and this is at the end of the unit, so if she left the first 4 to the end,
That would be fantastic. So that was one thing, not that she's a procrastinator, but she also has other, and so I think that, she's navigating it, she's getting to the point where she knows what the expectations are.
Yeah.
And then, office hours, just getting to office hours, that might just be on me,
Mm.
because, I can do 2 at 8:30, but.
I typically have morning and afternoon, I know that
You
Canvas
also
doesn't have afternoon,
Right.
but I had to do that both, I actually offered, I offered minimum 5 hours of office hours this year, every week. That's just for 7th grade, and sometimes I would open up the other days for them too, so they had at least 5 hours of office hours available. That was just, I was probably doing too much, but.
Right. They're all, those are the best pencils,
I
John
love
pens.
these.
Maybe is that why you have one on your next ability?
Oh, absolutely.
Otherwise, you bargain.
I don't get anything now. I'm very switchy.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we appreciate it. And Harper Milburn.
Amy? Oh, okay, cool.
Any other year.
Mhm.
She's gonna do that.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool. Was she, I'm trying to think if she was one of the ones that was she expected to take the test without it. But no, Amelie, her mom, she's like, yeah, we know it was. And some of the girls were like, no, I still gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. Just making decisions on their own. I was like, no, you're gonna take it, so we'll take
She
it.
didn't tell me she did it,
Ah,
so we got this thing.
so I think I might have made her do it. Yeah. I think there's a few of them athletes, I was like, I'll take it. You didn't have it, because they didn't have an excuse as to why they wouldn't, because some of them were like, oh, I have a vacation, I already have something planned in the summer, so I can't. The rest of them, I was like, no, I'll take it.
You only know Katie.
I
Katie is,
Charlene, I think Amelie's gonna do it, yeah, she knows.
I mean, I just, what we're saying, I think they just need to look great in the eye.
This
Well,
is serious.
Yeah,
Are you ready to not mess around?
yeah, I think she is, as long as bring her up stuff.
You're ready to not mess around.
Sometimes seven is exciting.
I do have another long question.
Okay.
I don't think this is an answer that necessarily give,
Okay.
but she's asking how many hours of homework. So in other words, I guess what's the expectation as far as how much time? I know it can vary depending on the kids.
It's gonna vary, because some of them can knock out the homework before classes. Like, so some of them, when they finish what we have ready for class, depending on what the lesson looks like for the day, they'll start doing homework and they'll finish the homework before class is even over. And some may have to go home and work on it, or do more. If it's taking longer than an hour, they need to come in and get some help, or utilize the CPM homework, or things like that, but I don't think you should do that.
So if my daughter is already she's doing fine, but I help her with homework often. To me, do it. Okay, doesn't matter. I mean, anyways, I'm just trying to get a sense of like.
No, that's perfectly fine. I mean, you may, just maybe it's just use accelerated in the beginning, kind of like ease off and let her use the CPM homework help to see where that goes. Because there is online research and there's like having my homework helpline, or you can call in people and things like that. Work on office hours, work on with some really good girls. Just to kind of like push that independence a little bit more, but it doesn't work,
Yeah.
I'm never gonna tell you like, no,
When
no,
you're 18, you're out the door.
yeah, so, no.
I'm trying to remember too, like, I'm trying to remember what I did in math, because I took calculus. took trig.
Mhm.
We don't do trig.
No, it's not a separate course. It's embedded within a geometry.
Okay. So it must just I mean, I didn't have to in college and I was like, why? Why did I even don't understand? So I don't like that's my other thing, like doing AP calculus, like, okay. So
It's, I mean, really and truly,
why
we're
is
just,
that the goal?
really and truly, we're just projecting long term into the future and being ready for college. And that's really what it is. I know. Taking AP calculus, you take AP test, get at least 3. You get college credits for classes you don't have to take. It looks great on your application. Say that you complete these courses. It's just really projecting into the future. They really want them to have 4 really solid years of math in high school. So we're trying to push them into 5. So and that's really and truly what it is. Just making it competitive. In a environment like nowadays, college is ridiculously competitive. So just try to get them on like that. That's all.
Alright, cool. Thank you so much.
Brian Roper, I'm Taylor Roper today. I love you, Kayla. She got red hair. She got. First question, did you go to Texas Southern?
I did not.
Texas Southern.
Oh, I got the banners for downstairs. No.
I was gonna say, okay. You know, I got 2 masters and a PhD. Last thing. I don't know what sent me here. I had half the time. I guess really look at what it's about. So,
That's really truly what it is. That some of the parents like they let go, and the kids are just like drown because they were used to the hand holding too much. But you sound like you already don't really do that.
I mean, the thing about it is my wife is very, so first of all, my mother-in-law is a math teacher, she has been for so she's a great math teacher. And first and second, you're kind of famous in our house,
Who is it?
Kayla Roper. I think she, I don't know if, did you go into Miss Nieves' class and do some stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have to see a picture of her.
She's like, she's got this tall, she's got red hair and glasses.
You got to show me a picture. Maybe I'll be able to look up Miss Nieves and see a picture.
But she really, so, I think for her, it's really a decision. I think she has the cognitive chops. I do. I simply didn't.
If she enjoyed what I gave them that day, then she's ready for accelerated. Because it was super challenging.
I just don't want her, because, she's not a kid. She's not a cool. I mean, she's cool to me.
Mm-hmm.
See, I'm 46 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And, my big concern is when I was getting my doctorate, the difference between, getting an A and getting a B is a big paradigm. And it's not the people who think are entertaining, it's the people who have the insight. I'm apparently, stop spying on me. My wife is spying on me for her own video.
I forgot it was still going. Let me turn it off.
You're gonna turn it off. That's not cool.
Oh boy.